I want to welcome and thank her for the kind introduction. I'm honored to be here. I take great pride in trying to help candidates of color, and quite frankly all candidates, find where they want to be and do what they want to do in independent schools. But I will tell you, this group is honored and honorary faculty are phenomenal. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. There are some of these faculty members who I can promise you, lots of us wouldn't be where we are without the inroads that they made. There is no question. I told Jackie that last night. A lot of us would not be where we are without the inroads that they made. So we offer a special applause for these honorary faculty who truly open the doors for us to take the next step and inch in again, and become a dean of students, and then become an associate head, a division head, and then 6% of us in the schools become a head of school. But the door is being opened. I take great pride in that, and great responsibility that comes with it. As I thought about today, I really wanted to make sure that I left you with more than just stories about my experience in independent schools. We all have stories about our experiences in independent schools, and if you're new to independent school education, for those candidates out there, I can assure you you'll have plenty of successes and challenges in your future. But I want to offer a few insights that helped me over the years. They may conjure up memories of challenges and successes in your past, or they may help ensure that you don't make some of the errors that either I've made or that I've watched during my time. I feel fortunate to have spent the last 26 years learning from others and trying to pay it forward by mentoring and supporting those around me. I've actually seen a few people in the room who've had to put up with me asking hard questions, put up with me pushing them to decide what's truly important in their careers and in their lives. And I've done that because I want to see you become whatever you want to be in independent schools. I want to see you dream big. As I see it, that's what good mentors do. They don't always provide the answers, but they ask good questions so that you can come to the right solution for you. So my story, aside from Montana, and that's an interesting story. It does have to do with Jacob Lawrence. I'm a big fan of Jacob Lawrence because my parents are part of the migration in some ways from Alabama. Montana's a whole other story. We can come and ask you about it later. So my story involves being the first African-American male to serve as more than a custodian or plant operations staff at my first independent school. I had no idea that I'd fall in love with teaching and leading at that very same school. And I imagine lots of our faculty can tell you stories about being the first. And those stories matter because the first leads to the second, leads to the third. Scars from those painful moments that helped shape me as an educational leader, along with hours of sheer joy, teaching and coaching, did the same for my journey. Would I trade some of those painful moments? There are times when I would have said yes, but now I know that overcoming those challenges prepared me better than any success ever could have. So I offer my thoughts on the lessons that I feel are most valuable to me. I hope they provide both encouragement and wisdom as you become leaders in your classroom, in your schools, and beyond. So I titled this PowerPoint, Thinking Ahead, Focusing on the Present While Preparing for the Future. And I titled it that because first and foremost, you have to do your current job really well to be considered for other jobs. That's a fact in this industry. It doesn't matter who you are or what you look like, you have got to do your job really well before you're considered for other jobs. If you're a teacher, be a great teacher. If you're a dean, be a great dean. If you're a division head, be a great one. My father, who used to play professional baseball in the Negro Leagues and then in the Dodgers organization, used to tell me that greatness can't be denied, so go be great. And I say to you, greatness can't be denied, so go be great, candidates. I've divided my comments into 3 areas: why teach and lead in independent schools, hurdles to avoid, and then what happens once you get the job. What advice can I offer once you get the job from my years of experience and from my conversations? The best part of this is you're going to get to stand up again, but only for 1 minute. You did 30 seconds last time. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And while this seems like a really simple question, it's much deeper than I think it is, than I think you initially perceive it to be. So I'm going to have you stand up, turn to the person next to you, and in the next 45 seconds, tell them why you teach or lead in independent schools. Why you teach or lead in independent schools. And if you're new to independent schools, you don't even have that first job yet, turn to the person and tell them why you want to teach or lead in independent schools. Start and watch. Go. So throughout the day, I'm not going to ask for your answers right now. I'm going to make it that participatory. What I am going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about that today. I'm going to ask you to think about that when you're in conversations and in small sessions. I'm going to ask you to think about that when you're having individual conversations with leaders on the staff and faculty. I want you to really think about that. For me, there are really 3 answers for me. And the first one is really for all students. It's for all students. It's not just one section of students, it's for all students. I believe we have an imperative to help shape the minds of our independent school students. If you don't believe that your majority population students are watching you, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. They are trying to balance what they see in the media versus what they see in you at your school. I had a conversation with one of my math teachers at POCC, and I had no idea it was going to bring me to tears, but the conversation was really, with all that's going on in Ferguson and New York, if you don't think that those kids are coming to your class and looking at you and saying, wow, this may not, some of this doesn't quite fit with me. This is a young man who teaches math. I have something else in my head that I see. It matters. It matters every day, all day. I think the magnitude of it mattering every day, all day, means something. I have a faculty member here in the audience that can tell you it matters every day, all day. Second reason, unapologetically, it matters for our students. It matters for our students. And I'm going to do my best not to choke up when I tell you this story, but it does matter for our students. Students that are not in the majority population, it matters. Whether they tell you or not, you are modeling for them. You are a role model for them, whether they tell you or not. There's no doubt that those of us who have served in independent schools know the effect that we have on students that look like us or that they feel are like us. No doubt. We can provide support and understanding to the unique challenges that others may not be able to do. They may not know what it's like to be X or Y. And you can provide those take those unique opportunities to support students that way. You know, the story that really resonates with me harkens back to my first year as head of school at Charlotte Country Day School. A head's job never ends, 24 hours a day, and I think the heads in the room will tell you that. I see them chuckling because they know. Late April, ramping up for graduation, people talk about the year slowing down. It actually ramps up. And my assistant comes into my office and says, there's a mother on the phone crying and she wants to talk to you. Now, as head of school, I'm thinking, oh, what happened? You know, some kid fell off a swing, some teacher said something. You just don't know, right? You just don't know. So I answer the phone, this mother can tell she's been crying, and she says, I just want to tell you a story if you'll listen. Great. She says, my son is a second grader, and he's been at the school since junior kindergarten. And every day, I pick him up at carpool, and he says, and I ask him, we have this routine, I ask him, how was your day, and what did you learn today? She said, I picked him up today, and I said, how was your day? He said, Mom, I had a good day. So she's driving along, and she's noticing he's really quiet. She's really contemplative. She's trying to figure out what's going on. She's kind of looking in the rearview mirror a little bit. So she tries to engage him with the next question. What did you learn today? He didn't really answer. She said he was just kind of quiet. And they went about another block. He said, Mom, you know, all the kids really like Mr. Reed. And so she said, well, how do you feel about Mr. Reed? I really like Mr. Reed. So she's really, at that point, she's trying to figure out what's going on. She drives by another block, and he says, Mom, Mr. Reed looks like me. To which she starts to choke up, just like I just did. She starts to choke up, and she says, well, how does that make you feel? And he said one word. He said, proud. We affect children. We affect children. All children and our children. Doesn't matter whether you were male or female. Doesn't matter who you are. We affect the children around us, and none of us should ever forget that. On to much less emotional things. The next generation of leaders. The next generation of leaders. This is what I call the leadership imperative. Obviously, educators of color have been underrepresented in independent schools for a long time. So the question I posed to myself long ago was, what am I going to do about it? So I've tried to introduce independent schools to teachers of diverse backgrounds since I began teaching and coaching. And as I've moved into leadership positions, I've tried to influence that even more. My lesson learned is it takes a sustained effort. So those of you that are doing the hiring, candidates, you can turn your ears, you can plug your ears for a second. Those of you who are doing the hiring need to know that it takes a sustained effort to be successful. At St. John's School, we moved the faculty from 8% faculty of color to 25% faculty of color. But, and there's a big but, it took 10 years to do it. It took 10 years of sustained effort. So if you're a head of division, and you're hiring, it's a sustained effort. It's not 1 year we're going to hire 3 folks of color, and next year we're just going to see what happens when we're done. It is a sustained effort. And I'll tell you what, when I left St. John's School and headed to Charlotte Country Day School, that effort continued. And I can promise you, that school looks nothing like the school when I arrived as the first African American male on their faculty. It looks nothing like it. Is it perfect? No. Do they have ways to go? Absolutely. But it's a sustained effort that makes a difference. Many of you have probably already seen these statistics. What I put up here, I put all of them up here at once, because what I put up here is I put the year 2004, 2005, 10 years later, 14, 15. And I want you to notice the difference. So we've increased the percentage of students of color by 8%. Is that great? No. Is it acceptable? No. But we've made some movement. If you look at administrators of color and teachers of color, they're in the 3% range. They're in the 3% range. The fact is, we need you, candidates, we need you to be the next generation of independent school educators and leaders. You know, I was joking with someone last night and told them that I'll hit 50 this year. And to think that I've been in independent schools 26 years is, in some ways, a little daunting. In other ways, I'm starting to peek around that corner and think about retirement. So we need you to be the next generation of leaders in these schools. We need you to be the next generation of leaders in these schools. But I did want to give you hurdles to avoid. I wanted you to really think about, and this is really for the candidates, these are hurdles to avoid. And I'll be honest with you, there are some folks in the staff who may say, don't do it that way. They may have their own hurdles, and you'll have those conversations with them today. But these are the hurdles that I see and that I think you should consider avoiding. So the first one is really accepting positions you don't want in order to quote-unquote move up. Accepting positions you want in order to quote-unquote move up. And I'm going to ask you to ask two hard questions of yourself. How well can you do a job over the long haul that you don't enjoy? How well can you do a job over the long haul that you don't enjoy? Because there's no guarantee you're going to get the next post. Unless somebody's calling you to tell you. And the second question that I think again is critical is how encouraged are you to grow professionally in something you have little or no interest in? My belief is that if you don't want the job or you're not interested in the job, don't take it. Over the long run, you'll perform only as well as your enthusiasm for the job. And your performance is critical. And I think the folks in this room that are hiring will tell you your performance is critical to your next opportunity, either from within or outside of your school. I've read hundreds of recommendation letters and reference reports, and they might be the single greatest cause of someone either not moving to the finalist stage or not getting the offer in the end. How you perform on the job matters. I know I mentioned that earlier, but I can't say it enough. I believe you have to want the job you accept, and you have to commit to growing professionally in that job the entire time you're doing it. There's no substitute for passion. So use your passion and professional growth to vault your career, and don't just dream big. Get there. Get there. So the second one is not being prepared for your new position or job. And I'm not talking about years of experience. I agree with Wanda wholeheartedly. What I call this is no experience necessary, just homework completed. Talent and preparation can make all the difference. So if you think it's a job you want, do your homework. Watch others do it. They don't have to know you're watching it, just watch others do it. Ask lots of questions about the job long before you think you're going to apply for it. Find a mentor who does the job, either outside or inside of your school. And my last tip on that is really one that you have to be careful with. Here, I'm going to repeat it twice, so listen the first time, I'm going to repeat it. Play the, if I were in that job, I would have done X or Y in that situation, game with yourself to yourself. And the ending is yourself to yourself. And I'll repeat it. Play the, if I were in that job, I would have done X or Y in that situation to yourself. So with yourself to yourself. Now the key to this, and the ending to that, when you play those scenarios out in your mind, and I think it is absolutely healthy to play those scenarios out in your mind, not out of your mouth. Right? You have to be honest with yourself. So when you play it out, you wait to see how it ends. And then you ask yourself in a very honest way, would I have gotten it right? And if the answer is yes, great, what did I learn from it? And if the answer is, boy, I bombed that one, you have to ask yourself again, what did I learn from it? lack of continued growth, let's go back to, there we go. Setting a hard timeline on your career. This is what I call the head in 5 years syndrome. Set amazing goals for yourself and make plans on how to achieve them, but don't set hard timelines on your career. I've worked with too many graduate students who told me they'd be ahead of school in 5 years and would do anything to get there. If you find a great school with opportunities to grow from within, stay and learn all you can from the people you trust and respect. I served as assistant head for 5 years and was consistently being asked to interview for headships. In almost every case, I turned down those opportunities to learn more in areas that I felt were critical to successful headship. The most basic example for me was in advancement or development. I believed that I needed to hone my skills as a fundraiser. I was able to participate in annual funds and capital campaign efforts, and that allowed me to gain the experience that I both wanted and needed. I have to say, I even served as an interim director of advancement while serving as assistant head of school. And there's no doubt it made for lots of 16 and 17-hour days. But in the end, it gave me a much deeper experience in an area of school leadership that served me very well in my role as head of school. This one is for everybody, and it includes heads of school. And it's this notion of continued growth. It's a notion of continued growth. Professional development, be in the conversation by knowing the latest trends and research of your current job. Challenge yourself to grow professionally each month or week of the year. It could be something big or something small, but challenge yourself to grow and raise your level of expertise in the area you're in right now. When you start to interview and you don't have the experience, you do have the knowledge of your current job. And what we see is we see someone who can grow into a job very quickly if they get in the habit of growing professionally in their current job. Consider getting an advanced degree. Go back to school, summers, part-time, online. The options have grown significantly since I was in school. You can work full-time and still get your degree in 2 or 3 years. And ask your school to pay for it. Ask your school to pay for it. Many professional development budgets have money put aside for people to advance their career. Take advantage of those dollars. That's one of the fastest ways I know that you can move up in your career. This one's a little throw you off a little bit, but believing that cultural competency is a one-way street. You know, we ask others to understand us, or I ask others to understand my culture. And I think it's important, and I believe it's critical, but I also believe that we should be doing the same. If you really think about it, we should be doing the exact same thing we ask of others. If you're offered a job at an international school, clearly you'll need to be open to learning the culture of a community and a country that you're about to enter. And that runs the same in every school, city, and region of the United States. It might be on a smaller level, but allow people to learn about you and take time to learn about the culture you're entering. Finally, we're going to get to once you get the job. And this first one I can't state loud enough, I can't stress it enough. It's the fact that you find mentors. And you notice I said plural mentors, because no one person is great at everything. Find more than one mentor. And if you're really honest with yourself and you're really self-reflective, then you'll find mentors in areas where you need growth. Not just mentors where you're already strong. Find mentors where you need growth. A couple ways to do that. Reach out to others in your network and ask for introductions to mentors. Now the challenge that was thrown out to you earlier by Deborah, you're you're going to have a whole lot of people in your network by the end of today. Reach out to mentors and ask them if they know of somebody who is in that role that might mentor you, in the role you want to be in. If you don't have somebody there, somebody you admire, somebody you've seen from afar, somebody you've heard speak at POCC, you've heard speak at a conference, start with an invitation to lunch or for a cup of coffee. You'd be surprised what $10 worth of lunch or coffee can get you in the end. There's knowledge you can't gain without talking to those folks, and it's worth it for $10. Now I have a couple of tips for once you find a mentor. One, respect a mentor's time and prepare for your meetings with them way in advance. Two, have your questions ready for them and send them to them as far in advance as you can. Because mentors are going to be thinking about it. I got all these heads over here nodding, yes. Because when we get stuff 5 minutes before, or let's talk on the phone, and then you drop it on us, we don't have as much time to think about it. And trust me, you want us to think about it. You want us to give you the best we have. So send your questions in advance. The last one is always understand the value and purpose of the mentoring experience. I think it can save you heartache, headache, and in some instances a job. It's that important. It's that important. Get historical data. Get historical data. Study the history of key decisions that were made before you arrive in your new position. Know the mistakes that others made so you don't repeat them. The example I give you is my first week on the job at Charlotte Country Day School. I looked through 6 years of board minutes. I wanted to know how the school arrived at major decisions, and in some cases how they didn't arrive at major decisions. Do your homework. If you're aspiring to be a dean of students and then you get the job, try to figure out where those policies came from that you're questioning. The policies that you think are old and archaic and you want to change, try to find out where they came from. There may be a good reason that they're in place. Or better yet, there may be a great reason for you to change them, and when you explain to people that you've researched it, it adds significance to your ability to make that change. Listen and learn from everyone around you. In your position or not, try to understand the thinking of others to expand your understanding of school leadership. As a dean, I learned lots about school leadership, both good and bad, from others around me. My meetings with the head of school about discipline issues helped me understand how global his approach had to be. It allowed me to get insights into his job that I would have never gotten if I hadn't been deliberate and intentional about trying to learn from his point of view and the decisions that he was making. Be deliberate when you're trying to figure out why the decision maker has made the decision. Set your own standard of performance, and there won't be many folks in this room, certainly near my age, who didn't have parents who said, you got to do it better to be considered equal. Well, that may have changed a little bit. I'm not going to kid you. I'm going to say set your standard of performance higher than anyone expects of you. And then go out and achieve those goals. Set it higher than anyone expects of you, and then go out and achieve it. And finally, be true to your own values and trust your instincts. You're in this job, whether you have experience or not, someone hired you because they trusted their instincts, that your instincts and your values were good. And that goes back to Wanda's comment about being confident. Not cocky, but confident. Go into the job knowing you have lots to learn, but you also bring something to the table, because they wouldn't have hired you if you didn't bring something to the table. I think that's important. If you forget everything else you've got to remember to be true to your own values and to trust your own instincts. In the end, whether you move up or whether you're dismissed from a job, you want to be able to walk away and say, I did it the way that I believed it needed to be done. I did it the way that I believed it needed to be done. There were a couple of quotes that have meaning to me that I'm going to put up. I'll read the first one. I'll let you read the second one. But the first one is George Washington Carver. It's how far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving and tolerant of the weak and strong, because someday in your life you will have been all of these. Someday in your life you will have been all of these. And the last quote I'm going to put up here, I'm going to let you read it by yourself, but I have to tell you, my first 2 or 3 weeks at Charlotte Country Day School, they had planned this induction ceremony. A whole lot, if you get to know me, I'm not into a whole lot of hoopla, but they had this big, you have to do this. I kept saying, I don't really think, yes you do, you have to do this installation ceremony. And so they had tables in the gym, 600 or 700 guests. And they said, well, we want to put your favorite quote on the table. I look back now, I thought I was kind of old with the quote I put up there, but I also told the board at the first board meeting that their makeup was not exactly NAIS standards. And as I think about that 6 years later, I think, God, I still have a job. But this quote that you're about to read is an excerpt from a speech called Citizen in a Republic. It was delivered at the Sorbonne, one of the oldest educational institutions, certainly in the world, but absolutely in Paris, France, in 1910. It was delivered, this part of it, the whole speech was delivered by President Theodore Roosevelt, but this part of it speaks to your fortitude to carry on regardless of what others say, regardless of what others do, when you're the one making the decision. We do, I will say in 1910, there was definitely some gender bias, but it's what it says that means everything to me. To the candidates in the room, all those yellow badges, be in the arena. Be in the arena. Regardless of whether somebody tells you you're not ready to be the next D, you're not ready to be the next ABC, be in the arena. Be the person who strives about it. You're going to err. We all do. Just strive valiantly. I hope you have an incredible day today. I look forward to getting to meet as many of you as possible, and thank you for having me.